Hey guys, welcome back to another Cultured Boys discussion. I'm Pepe and I'm joined by Nathan, and today we are talking about my second favorite series of all time, up there in my top 5. It's Nisekoi. Yay!
Yay.
So, after weeks of watching Initial D, MF Ghost, all that kind of stuff, me and Nathan decided, hey, we've watched Nathan's. This is one of your favorite. Initial D was your second favorite, right?
Third favorite, I think.
Was it third? Yeah, because Fist North Star was your
Yes.
second, wasn't it? Anyway, that's a different thing. But we're reading my second favorite series today because we did a whole kind of 2 weeks on Nathan's. So we're doing little swapsies, see what this is like.
Fair is fair, after all.
How you doing? You doing good, bro? You doing good?
Yes, I'm great, thanks. Like outside of all of this, we've been enjoying some summer for once.
Yeah.
It's very
some
rare for us.
good weather for reading romance series.
Well, that's the funny thing is, when it's like, oh, it's great weather to be indoors watching anime and reading manga.
Oh man. So with this series with Nisekoi, like I think you said you read the first couple of chapters about this ages and ages ago, right?
No, I until this I have never actually read or watched Nisekoi ever.
Okay, yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
it was one of those that you loved, other friends might have got into and loved, and then told me you should read it. And you guys suggested it to me because it's in Jump. But because I was so stubborn and so stalwart on my opinion, I said I'll add it to the list, and I just never did it.
I'd say, but it's one of those ones where, like, when we look at your kind of favorite series, this kind of genre has never really
Oh no.
been one of your like top.
Very rarely breaks the top 10, if anything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's rarely something you enjoy, which is why I kind of understand. Even if I did try to get you into it, it'd be like, yeah, recommend it to him, but he's not gonna fucking do it.
I think if anything, I might have like played it off like, oh yeah, like I tried to read a chapter just so
Yeah.
you guys would stop being like, oh,
I think you
you're
literally told me this last week, though. I mean, it's not even like, oh yeah, this was like 10 years ago or whatever. When we were nah, I swear last week you said, yeah, I think I read a chapter of it or something.
I might even start believing my own lies. Apparently,
But before we get any more into Nisekoi, Nathan, even though it's my series I know and love,
I know this is the crazy part.
yeah, Nathan's gonna do the intro, the recap of it. What is Nisekoi, Nathan? Go ahead and do a little rundown
So
for us.
Nisekoi, created by Naoshi Komi, published November 7th, 2011 to August 8th, 2016. Nisekoi follows the daily antics of this mismatched couple who have been forced to get along for the sake of maintaining the city's peace. With many more girls popping up in his life, all involved with Raku's past somehow, his search for the girl who holds his heart and his promise leads him in more unexpected directions than he expects. Thank you, my anime list.
Thank you, Miami. Nice, nice, nice. So, Nathan, tell me, how did you ingest? Did you watch the anime? Did you read the manga? What did you do?
I went and read the manga because I needed my screens for something else.
Yeah,
Lots of things to watch.
yeah, yeah.
But I did, one, enjoy reading it, and two, was surprised that I even enjoyed the process of reading manga again in general.
Oh
Because
yeah,
again, I'm burnt out at the moment, but like I genuinely did sit, and whilst I was supposed I had all my other screens and I was watching, quote unquote, everything else that was going on that day. I actually sort of ended up just sort of blocking everything else out because I was so
yeah.
focused on sitting there like reading and paying attention to the panels. I was like, oh wow,
Wow.
I haven't done that in a long time, or felt like
Yeah, that's
in a long time.
it's interesting. Yeah, because like you said, like even though we do manga reviews and stuff like that, that's like for like episodes really. And like realistically, even with a Cultured Boys first, or like a manga club, what we usually do. We usually like, oh, let's read like the first 5 chapters, and you
Yeah.
don't have to read any more than that. This is the one thing with it as well. So like it's good to hear that you're getting back into reading manga anyway, in that sense. Like
Yeah, I'm glad too, man. I'm glad too. It's been a long time, and
it's
there's
been
a
a
lot to
while.
catch up on. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I've been out of the
Yeah.
game, man.
Yeah. It's it's quite good as well because you read the manga, because I think we discussed in the previous episode, I bought 25 volumes of
Yes.
Nisekoi last month. Well, I bought like 13 additional ones or whatever, and I literally blitzed through it all in 1 week. This is like, bear in mind, I got into the series in 2014, so 3 years after
Yeah.
like initially launched, and I got into it through the anime first, and then started reading the manga afterwards. Because I think at the time, I think the anime had about 7 episodes out at the
Okay.
time, and I caught up to the 7 episodes. I was like, "Well, I want more," and that's when I just started. I found out where I left off in the anime and just kept
Oh,
reading
okay.
in the manga. So that's always a good sign if I'm really invested in the series. Is that sometimes I can just wait for the anime to finish and be like, "Oh, I'll wait for next season."
Mm.
But sometimes, like, there's stuff like Kaiju number 8, for example. I watched the first 4 or 5 episodes of that, and then I was like, I need more of it. So I started reading the manga, and I think a series that really hooks me, it shows when I'm just, I can't wait for the next episode now. I need to get more of this media right now. So
Yeah.
I'll just jump over to the manga. That's a good sign, in my opinion, of like when I'm
To be,
really invested.
I can't remember what you suggested I do because I remember asking you
Mhm.
like, should I watch the anime or should I read the manga? I think you just said anime because I was burnt out on manga, but I can't remember if you really suggested.
I'd happily suggest either, because strangely enough, both forms of the series kind of have different pros and cons to them, which is a really weird thing, which I'll get into in a bit. But I think I recommended the anime to you, but I don't think there was any way for you to find it because it's not really on Crunchyroll, it's not on any streaming services. So I think manga is like probably the easiest way to get into it for you, I
Yes.
think. Yeah, yeah. But like yeah. So how did you find the manga then? Like, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
So I actually found it quite an easy read,
Mhm.
and it wasn't too heavily swayed because it's like a sitcom kind of series,
Yeah.
like sort of sitcom rom com kind of series, but like I didn't find that it leaned too heavily one way or the other, which is good because like normally, I don't know, I guess normally I would find it if it went too far one way, like too comedic, I'd be like, I don't like that. Or if it was like too heavily in the romance, I'd be like, I don't like that. You know, like
Mhm.
I thought it was a very nice balance. The situation is a little bit absurd, but I mean it's manga, so you know,
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed what I was reading. I had to stop
Mhm.
because I needed to do something else. Pepe knows I'm not like the fastest reader. Like we
Mhm.
used to read manga like well not together, but like Pepe and I and like some friends back in like sixth form, we used to like sit in a little group and we'd all be reading manga and like these guys would blitz through a chapter and be like, I'm done. And I was always the last one because I'm sitting there like, you know, I guess ADHD, I'm like, I can't focus as well. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I'm getting through it and I'd be like halfway and these guys are like, oh yeah, we finished and we're moving on to this thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I was always the last guy and I'll always be
Yeah.
the last guy to finish. But like it took me a little bit just because again,
Mhm.
ADHD things. But
Mhm.
15 chapters, I did actually want to continue reading more.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, wait.
I just haven't had the time to yet. But I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed it and how much it wasn't what I thought it was. So I'm also now kind of disappointed that I'm like, I probably could have read that back in the day, and I probably would have ended up being like you and be like, "Yo, that was a good series. Like people should read or watch that." Because I actually think back in the day I might have liked this. You know,
Yeah.
like it would have been a bit of a stretch, but I think back in the day I probably would have still liked this.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that, like, going into this episode, I was kind of like, I wasn't sure how you'd react to this, because again, I've never really talked like any like kind of rom com series with you at all, and
Yeah.
I've bear in mind, I don't really think I've really like read many, to be honest. I think I've mainly watched them. I've always gone for the rom-com series via anime rather manga. I
Hmm.
think To Love Ru might have been the only other one that I think, and like that was by the guy that created person that created Black Cat and
Oh, okay.
Ayakashi Triangle.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so they've done that series before. So like you got into Ayakashi Triangle, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually like that one, but that was like a little more heavily focused on the kind of themes that I enjoy rather than
Yeah,
the
ninjas, isn't
romance stuff.
it?
Well, yeah, it was like
Yeah,
supernatural, it was ninjas, a lot of
yeah.
combat, but there was like a love element, like a romance element, but like the romance element was like secondary most of the time.
It was yeah, it's a really strange hybrid of like comedy, romance, and action. And it did
Yeah.
feel like the action over time took over a little bit. I'm not actually sure what the series is at right now, if it
I
finished
don't know.
or yeah.
Again, I've been out of the game for so long. I don't even
Yeah.
know.
But, you're right though, like, Nisekoi is a very easy read at some points.
Mm,
This is, like and I think that also falls into some people's criticism of it as well, because, I argue, like, look, my opinion here, I'm biased as hell, I love this series.
yeah.
I love, like, everything about it, the lightheartedness, the comedy, the romance, I love all of it. But there's some people, I think, which look at it and be like, "Oh, it's a harem, it's, kind of like, oh, it's been played out before. This guy runs into this girl, and it's like, oh, what's gonna happen? Oh, they have to be like. Some
Yeah, I
people feel that
guess.
it's very like stereotypical, like kind of rom com, and like I think they're right in some sense. I think it isn't the most. There are some things which is probably taken from other series, and it's the most not the most original. However, there's something about it which I feel plays off like really well. I think it's the lightheartedness and the comedy of it. Like if you just want to enjoy the series, I think it's like a like for me, it's just like a good ride in general. Like just the whole series is a really good
I
feel good
mean,
kind of thing, a little bit
I
in a
can
way.
see I guess I can see where those criticisms come from, but like it wasn't anything that crossed my mind. I think the only thing, at least in the 15 chapters I read, and Pepe and I both know, and if you've read a lot of manga before, especially shonen,
Mhm,
you'll know like sometimes they take a while, and within the first 20 odd
mhm,
chapters, like a lot of nothing happens
mhm,
typically. Like
mhm.
they're still trying to establish themselves. They probably are getting direction into where the first story arc goes.
Yeah.
But like at least that's the only criticism I would have had is in like 15 chapters, like stuff happens, but it doesn't feel like anything super major happens outside of you, Chitoge and Raku, you guys now going out because otherwise the gangs are going to destroy each other and the entire city. Like that's kind of the most major thing that happens. And like in 15 chapters so far, like the next most major thing is like, oh, now Raku is like, is one of these
Mhm.
girls Onodera or Chitoge uh,
Yeah.
well, right now he's like, oh, is Onidera like the girl from My
Mhm.
Promise like 10 years ago? But now it's also the last, I think it was at the end of chapter 15 where Chitoge is like, says that phrase,
Oh, yeah.
that one like phrase, like Svarts is love or something.
So that's in love. Yeah, yeah.
And like, so then, like, now as the reader, I'm like, hey, wait a second. There's one girl with a key, but there's one
Mhm.
girl who knows the phrase.
Mhm.
And sometimes the girl is drawn, or at least at the start of the series, the girl
Mhm.
was drawn in a specific way to make me think she looked like one girl. And then
Yeah,
at
yeah.
some point in between that, in the 15 chapters, she's drawn in a different way.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, even I'm still kind of like, I thought it was maybe Onidera, but now I'm kind of
Mhm.
like, I don't know. So like
Yeah.
that's it. There's like two major things that have happened in 15 chapters. But again, in 15
Mhm.
chapters, like they're still trying to establish a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, that's it. Like, I think as the series goes on as well, it's like they add a few more people that it could possibly be as well. So
oh,
it's
okay,
like
yeah.
it becomes one of those series where you're like, oh, it's definitely this person because of this reason, and you're like, wait, hold on, but then what about this other reason? Like the thing is with this series is that it sets up so many different people that it could be,
Mhm.
but then you're like, wait, hold on, is it this? Like it becomes a like, I think it's this guy, I think it's this guy, and deep down it becomes what's up to the fan. It becomes like put on the fans in some way because everyone
Oh.
will have their own theory. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, so basically it's whatever superior what my headcanon, my ship.
well, it might be the ending does have a proper ending though. This is the one thing. Like. There's some series with like these harem series where they have a bit of a crap ending,
Mhm.
where it's like, oh, maybe I'll find a promised girl. Who knows? And it ends, and you're like, fuck that.
Okay, so
That's a
so so there's a definitive answer.
there's a definitive answer at the end of the
Okay.
series. This is what it does well. This is it doesn't blue ball you.
Okay. I actually
Like you
like that.
actually,
Well, like,
yeah,
I know some people will be like, "Oh, what Pepe spoilers," but I actually like no,
yeah.
like knowing there's an answer because sometimes I hate things like this where they leave it open ended because it's like, I don't know, what do you think? And I'm like, well, I don't know what I think.
Yeah, it is.
Like,
It is the most infuriating thing because obviously, like with these kind of series, like oh, it could be this, and then you're like, oh, he's getting up with this girl. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Then, like to actually get a definitive answer and not like to actually be as brutal as to be like, look, this is the girl he ends up with.
mhm,
That is it. Like that. I think in the mangaka's case, it can be quite tough because if a person had again, this is gonna fall into oh, a fan has their best girl or
yeah,
whatever, then they're like, "What? That's bullshit. How could he end up with her or whatever?" And then it's like, "Nope, that's the answer. That's the way the story's going. That's it." I like. There's not even like, "Oh, here's the alternate ending," because I know there's been some
God,
rom
this
com
is not a
mangas.
fucking visual novel where it's like, oh, let me save scum and now I pick this route. Like, fuck off.
There's there's this one series called We Never Learn, which is in Jump. It was in Jump for a fair few
Oh, I
years as
remember that
well,
one. Yeah,
and it was a really good series, another great rom com up until the end because they gave us 5 different endings, and I'm like, that it feels like a cop out. They could have just like like they gave us one ending. I was like, oh, that's good, and then it's like here's ending 2, and I was like, what? What do you mean there's ending 2? And they went, oh, here's ending 3, here's ending 4, here's ending 5. I'm like, for fuck's sake, just like I think it was a cop out. I believe that kind of ending is a cop out,
yeah.
but Nisekoi does it well, man. Like it gives
Okay,
you
okay.
yeah,
Real quick tangent, but
yeah. Mhm.
tangentially related.
Mhm.
If I had to rank the types of endings, definitive answer, no answer, every answer.
Yeah. You know,
That is the worst version to just be like, no one can be mad at me because you're all one. And like, no, fuck off. Fuck off.
yeah.
It has to be all or nothing. And I don't want it to be nothing, right? Because that's
Mhm.
annoying. Give me the answer, but at the same time, like, at least have have the gall, right?
Yeah.
Have the bravery to either slap me in the face with the answer and tell everyone else to shut up,
Mhm.
or just not answer us at all.
Mhm. I I 100% agree with you. Some people argue, "Oh, Lisa got like some kind of ending." No. Like that is a shallow ending is what it
Yeah,
is. If it feels like, "Oh, here's the ending that I want to look at. I don't care about these 4 other endings." I like honestly, it's like you said, this ain't a visual novel. Like end the series in a correct way, in my opinion. Like
I
this is
mean, the
it.
correct way is to just pick one, and it's your story.
Yeah,
So whatever you say, because you created it, that's the correct one, right?
literally.
Whether we like it or
Mhm.
not, that's the ending. But at least, at least Pepper and I can agree. The real, the real way to do it is to just tell us.
Mhm. It's true. It's absolutely true. Um, is it like I wanted to give like a quick note here as well because again, I read like all of this the whole series in a week. I'd read the
Mhm,
manga. Manga's brilliant, love it. But like it's been a couple years since I watched the anime
mhm.
and watching it as well. Like so I don't know whereabouts you left off. So it was you said like Shitoge's kind of finding out that, like, she might be she's spoke to Raku before in her past, basically. Is that like
So at the end of chapter 15, it was just after he lost the locket the second time, but he didn't realize after
okay,
he bumped
yeah,
into the
yeah.
janitor and one of the chain links broke. Chitoge found it, she repaired it, she gave it back to him.
Mhm,
And she's like the last panel was sort of like she sat in her room, she's looking in the mirror, and
mhm,
she's like, "Oh, I did meet a boy. Oh, I think I don't remember what
mhm,
he looks like. I don't. I don't really remember anything, but she just sort of remembers this phrase that's been like repeated a couple of times, and that was
Hmm.
kind of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that was the one where that's also the same chapter where Onodera tries to confess to Raku, but
Yes. Okay.
then the baseball goes through the window, and and then she doesn't get to do it anymore. But she's also kind of glad she doesn't get to do it, and then so that's I think that's pretty much the last thing I
I see.
read.
Okay, yeah. So I watched probably about 7 episodes of it, or maybe 8. You're just a little bit behind where I am in the anime bit. But I wanted to note that the anime does this thing where I never actually appreciated this until I watched it yesterday. It's how stylized the anime is in general, though, because it like obviously Nisekoi it's very easy to understand, very like light, easy read. But the anime does this thing where it's really freaking clean, and I've never noticed it, and they do these cutaway shots, like these setup scenes where you see all the backgrounds and stuff like that, and they
Mhm.
focus in on the background for, like, 2 or 3 seconds, and it's just, like, a really, like, really good picture. I like it's just a really good like, scene setting thing, like, no matter where they are,
Interesting.
it just it does this like, it's really stylized in some ways, which is very strange for this kind of series to do.
It's like kind of hard to imagine because I haven't seen. I feel like I have to
Yeah.
see it myself to understand.
Yeah. It's kinda hard to explain as well, like, it's like, I wanna try and put it to you remember, like, JoJo
Hmm.
animation, where it kinda like every now and then they just switch the colors around
Yeah.
of, like, a scene, there would be, like, suddenly, like, the sky's, like, a different color at some
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
and, like,
Yeah.
the hair's a different color. Like, you get, like, those kinda moments where it doesn't happen all the time, but it's like they just have this really stylized shot all of a sudden, or, like, there's, like, this flashback scene where, like, where, like, Raku's, like, remembering back in the day where he made the promise
Yeah.
to the girl and all that kind of stuff. Like, the whole picture is in black and white, but then you just see this light behind, the little girl, and it's like a rainbow kind of thing. It's like weird, like, spectrumy, like, out
Oh,
of all
okay.
this black and white, it's like this kind of, like, weird glow, and it's like there's certain frames of it which I'm like, "Freaking hell, that's a really good frame." I don't know, like, where it came probably because like, when I first started watching Nisekoi, I was watching it off like just like this really random stream, like on the like low definition, like low like honestly, it's like one of those things like, yeah, I'm just streaming this from the internet. It's like probably
Oh,
240p or whatever the fuck
yeah.
it is. And it's like, oh, the story's really good. I'm enjoying the story. But like I'm watching this now on a like a like this 50-inch screen on Blu-ray. And I'm like, they're like, fucking hell. I did not appreciate this that much at all until like this moment.
Well, I mean, like you probably couldn't before,
Mm,
watching off
it was
of a
bad.
fucking 3-part YouTube, like 360p.
But man,
By the way, not saying that's how Pepe did watch it, but like if you know, you know. From if you're
it's not
from the
it's not
time period, you will know.
I know, yeah. It's not too far off.
Part 4 of 7.
Oh, but like that's what I wanted to mention anyway, because the manga has its own good points, but the anime has a whole other set of pros to it, which you won't get in the manga. And because I mean, bear in mind this anime was it debuted in 2014, like just at the start of it. So you had 3 year basically like a 3-year gap between when the manga released and then this anime. So early on in the manga, I think the designs I don't want to say rough or whatever, but they had their initial designs, and then
Hmm.
as the series goes on, it becomes a lot more cleaner. The characters look like less jagged. I want to say is that there's a lot less
Okay.
like there's a lot more smoother lines basically,
Okay.
and the anime goes off of those later designs. So all of like what you get in the first chapter is done kind of like anew in those newer episodes, and it again with mixed with that stylized like those frames and all that kind of thing. The music is like a certain kind of thing where you're like, oh, that's like cool. It's a whole different experience in some ways. The story's the same. The
Interesting.
story's completely the same. Like they
Interesting.
had a little bit extra here and there, like a little bit of like maybe a couple extra gags every now and then. Like or like just some like cutaway bits where they focus on people's reactions, because that is what again Nisekoi does quite well.
Yeah,
Um
there's a lot of that in the like panels as
Yeah.
well.
There's like this little like 2-second cutaway bits where you see a character's reaction. They do it really well in the anime. But like, yeah, it's a series which I feel like you can get two different kinds of experiences from reading the manga and the anime.
I can imagine that. I mean, like, because sometimes, not even sometimes, like in general, I feel like with a lot of animes you get that, but that's because it's like the difference between the still image versus like moving image.
Yeah.
But like I can see in something like this where it's like comedy as well. There's the extra little touches of like for like you said, like some of the reactions or sometimes even like some of the panels look a
Mhm.
little like clustered and like too filled up
Yeah.
sometimes because it is doing those comedic reactions like I don't know, where there's a spit take or, there's a certain
Yeah.
reaction and there's all the effect lines and like the art styles changes slightly. So like I could see in like animated form that's a little
Yeah.
like cleaner, a little easier to express because it's like things can disappear and fade out and like there's a greater effect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's this one moment where I think it happens in chapter 3 or 4. You know where Kirisaki and Raku go on a date together,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like it's their first date, and
Yeah.
then they bump into Onodera in the park.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Raku's like, no, 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 she's not my girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend. Kirisaki's like, yes, he is. He's my
Yeah,
boyfriend.
yeah.
Like, there's that back and forth bit. But in the anime, they actually do it in like a kind of manga panel, with
Oh,
like kind of
interesting.
thing. So it's kind of like Onodera's like, "Oh, you just said darling," and then Raku's like, "No, no, no, it's a misunderstanding." So it switches to like it slides over to the left side of the screen, and then it goes down and right, and you see Kirisaki's reaction saying, "Oh, no, 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 we are together, we are together," because she's trying to cover, and then you just see this
Oh,
back and forth in a manga panel style, like this is like it's those kind of things which like the anime does quite a bit. But it's not always that. It's not always like a manga panel. It'll be something different. It might be
yeah. That's
like a shot
interesting.
of something else. You know what I mean?
That's really interesting.
It is, isn't it? It's those cool little bits like here and there. And I was trying to I was looking into what studio did it, and it is what is it? They've done a few other things as well. Um it was Madoka Magica, I think it's called.
No.
Um
Oh, actually, you know what? I think I have seen Nisekoi anime's like cover
mm,
before, and
yeah.
now that you just said Madoka Magica, and of which I've watched that recently, actually thinking about it, it does have a similar like lighting and color palette, or like color style, I should say, rather than
Yeah.
palette. It's that kind of
It's
like
like a it's like
pastel,
pastel.
but like
Yeah.
there's also that sort of like old school, like film grainy kind of like white
Mhm.
over everything
Yeah.
that sort of makes everything kind of a little. I don't want to say saturated or muted, but you know what I mean. Like it's just got this sort of like something over it that makes it a little
Mm.
sort of like
It's those bright pastel colors, but it's like kind of like distinct, like
yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's a style that like if you saw it, you kind of like this is this studio style at this point. You know what I mean? I think like if you saw the anime, I think you'd probably agree, Nathan. Like with Nisekoi. The thing is, I've never really seen Madoka Magica.
do you know what? Like
I
it's
just know that
crazy.
it's fucking yeah,
It's crazy knowing what I know from both series now to
yeah.
like from one thing to this. I'm like,
Mm.
whew. I mean, obviously, animation studios, they just make the animes.
Yeah.
They don't write the stories, but it's just like,
Yeah.
jeez, they could not be more different.
They both got the same artist to sing the openings as well,
Oh, cool.
Claris. So I think Connect is Madoka Magica's opening, and it's so the first two openings for Nisekoi are sung by Claris as well.
Oh,
So
cool.
I think it's one of those things where Madoka Magica came first, like so they did that first, then Nisekoi came shortly after. I think it might have been the second anime they did after Madoka. So they really they really leaned into, hey, you know what we're good for? Stylized shots and Claris. So we're gonna incorporate both of these into these kind. It does its own kind of
Hey,
thing. But
man, if it works, it
yeah.
works.
Exactly. Yeah, if it ain't broke. So Nathan, I want to hear your current theories. Who do you think the promise girl is?
Okay. I'll give you my real theory
Yeah.
before I give you the joke one.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Because realistically, where I left off, I sort of just went with what it told me, and I was like leaning heavily towards Onodera because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, she got the key, right? And she's saying the weird stuff, like the manga's basically pointing her at me, like they're
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
saying this is her, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, I believe you. But then, as I said at the end of chapter 15,
Mm-hmm.
now Chitoge is saying stuff, and I'm like, uh-oh,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen two girls so far, so like, and I'm very early on in the series. I know there's like 100 odd chapters or whatever, like,
Mm-hmm.
so right now, real theory, I got no
Mm-hmm.
fucking idea, bro. I got no fucking idea.
Yeah.
And especially, like, again, I know some people would be like, "Oh, spoilers!" Knowing that there's more girls coming. Look, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, I've got no fucking clue.
Yeah, yeah.
My joke theory
Mm-hmm.
is Claude. That's why he wants it to be fake so bad. It's because Claude wants to swoop in there and be like, "It wasn't ever a girl, and I wasn't. It wasn't. It was when you was a kid, and not when I was a kid. I was a teenager, and we made a promise. It's
Oh,
me."
good. You know what makes this even better? I'm gonna feed into the meme here. In the anime, Claude is voiced by the same voice actor that does Dio.
Perfect.
So it was Claude all along.
Kono Claude da.
Yeah. Okay.
You're approaching me.
Is is it bad that the moment you said joke theory, I was like, he's only know a few handful of characters. He's gonna say Claude. I know he's gonna say Claude. And then there, lo and behold, he went.
Do you know what's really funny? I don't know, and this is some behind the scenes, even though by the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
this comes out, it will already have come out.
Hmm.
But I've been editing. I started early on the pitches edit,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the same thing happened when you were doing your pitch and you said crab rave. So I've already done your part, and I said the same thing because you said something, and then I literally went, as soon as you said this, if you did not say crab rave, and I knew you would say crab rave, that's how you know. That's how you
It's
know we hang out too
it's
much because
yeah, it's like
we know how we
unspoken thing.
think.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
like it doesn't. We don't even have to think about it. And it's like I already know what's coming. I know it's
It's like
coming.
that. You don't even. Yeah, is that the telepathy now? We've done like so many of these episodes now. We just know we
That's
connect
not
now.
even like just because of these episodes. We've been friends so
No, also
long that
it
it's just
is.
literally
Yeah.
like this motherfucker's gonna know. I'm gonna say I will say something stupid, and he knows exactly how stupid it's gonna be.
Oh Christ.
Well,
Oh
I mean,
man.
it's also the logical choice. I'm not about to turn around and be like, "Oh yeah, it turns out it's the Yakuza guy that's
Yeah. That, I
oh
mean, yeah.
Bokchan, it was me all along. Thank you for that origami. Oh, I loved it."
There's like a handful of others I could have thought of. Like the only other one is was it Shu? You know his
Oh
mate.
God, no, not him. Not him.
it's
I, I hate
it's
that
really
guy.
you hate Shu. Why do you hate Shu?
He's a wind-up merchant. I hate him.
Oh, he's chaotic as fuck, and I love him for
Yeah,
it.
exactly. That's why I hate him. You'd think I'd love him because that's me,
Yeah,
but like I hate him.
is the like there's like a certain thing like Shu like has his like moments. He's just there to like basically cause trouble, which is why he does his role perfectly in it. But like
I agree, he
it's
does it perfectly, but that's also probably why I'm like, oh, get out of here, you fucking time waster. Get out of here.
Okay, to be fair. I mean that's the thing with Nisekoi as well. You'll find like in the over 200 chapters that it has, it is a lot of story of the week kind of thing. Like obviously there is like bits where you will get genuine story progress, and then there'll be like a chapter just is dedicated to a gag. Like kind of like what was happening with Witch Watch. Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, like, to be fair, in something like this though, y- you can't do like a typical shonen like story arc that often because
Hmm.
it where it's a rom com, it will have you do sort of have to throw in a lot of random situations for the comedy to come in
Yeah.
more often, and like I suppose like the major story arcs will be
Mhm.
like you could focus on like one goal more than any other goal.
Mhm. Yeah.
But realistically, yeah, I think it's sometimes maybe the pitfalls sometimes of
Mhm.
these kind of s- themes because like
Mhm.
with in Shonen Jump you're used to like the fights, like the big bad, and it's like that's the big
Mhm.
story arc, right? Because then you get your mini bits in between. You get your training arcs, maybe you get your time skips or your power ups, whatever. But
Mhm.
in something like this, it's like they're pretending to go out. He's looking for whatever goal is the promise. What? How and why would you throw in a fucking training arc in that? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's no.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe he has like he goes and he learns how to be more confident or something.
Mm.
Like you get maybe
Confident.
stuff like that. You could write something like that, but it's not gonna be like, oh, he goes out and he hits the gym and now he's a fucking muscle head. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
there's certain thing. The way that Nisekoi tells its story is that like what will happen is you'll get like an occasional one chapter story of the week kind of thing. And you might get a couple of those, and then you'll go into a bit of backstory, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
there'd be revelations. This is the one thing. This story relies on revelations at the end of the day because he's trying to find out who the promise girl is. But then, like, no one kind of remembers about it back then. This is the one thing. So everyone kind of that has these things where it's like, oh, here's a flashback to this moment, or here's where you'll get a moment where a character's facing a dilemma, and it's like, oh, like they're really struggling, and then like Raku will help out, or another character like Onodera or Kirisaki will actually help them out, and that kind of
Hmm.
thing. So it comes into it where that will be like a maybe like 5 or 6 chapters will be focused on one character's dilemma, and that's what it'll that like it's kind of like you said with story arcs. There'll be like these mini, like probably like a volume sized issue that comes through. Like it'll like one volume will focus on this character's issue that they're going through, and then
That
like
makes more sense.
yeah,
Like,
that's the kind of
it,
stuff.
it
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, stuff like this is more character focused than it is like
Hmm.
trying to involve every character in like a very big, grandiose like situation that will then clear up for them to then set up for the next big thing that will involve all the characters for them to clear up.
Yeah.
Like,
it's it does focus a lot on the relationship thing where it's like each relationship deepens a bit more. And that's not just Raku and a girl. That could be between those like, other characters as well. That could be between Onodera and Kirisaki. There could be like a deeper relationship between them. And it's like developing those relationships within like all those characters. So
I
it's
like
like
that it does that though, because it's also like I can't remember what chapter it is, but there's that chapter where you find out like Chitoge doesn't actually have any friends because
yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
got the misconceptions about her, and she's like off in the classroom like making a notebook, like taking down notes like, oh, this person's like this, that person's like this. And because Raku's the only other person in the entire country that like has experienced exactly what she has, because they're basically the same, they're the heirs to big old gangs, is a very unique situation to live in. And so like he comes and helps, and like from that point on she like starts making friends with people and starts like
Yeah.
talking. I quite like that because it feels kind of realistically written as well, because
Mm.
I mean obviously I don't know any, I don't know also know how or why I would ever know anyone that's like, oh, I'm the heir to a fucking criminal empire. But I'd imagine people in those kind of situations would struggle to live like a normal like kid life like
Mm.
that. So it just
Yeah.
feels kind of like realistically written, and I appreciate like the small
Yeah,
touches like
it's
that.
like that's the one thing that it does well, like just tying those characters in and actually like like with those friendships, just throwing them into those situations, which it isn't just all oh here's this romance thing, here's this like oh will they do this, but like it is genuinely like oh shit this character's going through some shit right now.
Yeah,
Let's
I
help them
it,
out. Yeah.
that's what I was talking about like way at the start, like when you asked me, because it really doesn't, like it takes a little bit and it sprinkles it all over. Like there's a bit of romance, there's a bit of comedy, here's some serious stuff, like, but it like mixes it in fairly well. There are some times where it's like, all right, like, fucking, yeah, you didn't need to do that comedy right there, like, whether the fucking they go do the study group and they get locked
Oh
in
yeah.
that storehouse, and then like they have
Hmm.
that real moment where she's scared,
Yeah.
and he's like he helps her out, and then they get better, and then it's like, oh, whoops, and then it's like
Yeah.
doors open. Oh my god, they were doing dirty things. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck's sake.
I will I will say the anime does like the series does fall into tropes like that every now and then. Of course, there's a cultural festival thing. There's a beach episode. Like it's all those things that which will happen.
I mean, I think that's just again, I think we said this in previous ones where like we're not the target audience for shonen anymore. So like I guess it's just a sign that I'm starting to age. Maturity has finally started aging out of those kind of gags. Maybe at some point, if I read it, I would have been like, haha, that was well fun. Oh my god. Lol, 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 lol. Now I'm like, nah, okay, okay, I get it. I get it. For your target
Mhm.
audience, they probably would have been like, haha, funny.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, yeah, okay, great. You, it might have been more effective if you just left it at like a nice, like he helps her out, and then they learn to appreciate each other a little more. You know what I mean? But maybe that's because I'm an old man now, and I'm just like, I don't need the haha funnies anymore.
I think it kind of comes down to, like you said, like we've read a lot of manga in our
Yes.
time now at this point, and I think like at this point we can recognize when they're doing something like, oh, okay, it falls into this thing. Okay, this is happening here because this moment. Like I think we can recognize why something's happening in it,
Yeah.
and because we've read it, it's like, oh, okay, fair. It's happened because of this. It doesn't mean we necessarily enjoy every moment of it, or
Yeah.
like it's like, there's that thing that happens. Like, when you've read as much manga, this is gonna sound nerdy as fuck, but when you've read when you've read enough, as much manga as like what we've done, you can kind of call out those moments, and you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get like why it's done like this. Yeah.
Especially like me, I won't speak for Pepe because Pepe does read a much wider range of manga than I do, but where I've almost focused solely on Shonen Jump, I'm like, you see it coming a mile away because it's like, yeah, there's the
Yeah.
fan service to definitely make sure that target demographic gets what they need to be like, that was a good chapter. I will vote to say that was a good chapter, and then this series will stay. You know what I mean? Like, after all, it's a business. So I get it. I get it. But
You got to do what you can to stay
yeah, you
relevant and
got to do
stay
what
in
you got to
jump in
do.
it. So yeah,
Jump is a
it's a
cruel
tough world out
mistress.
there. Yeah.
If
That's
you ain't if you
it's
ain't getting the
fucking
votes, you're getting axed.
the true words have never been said.
Axed
Oh
in
man.
20 chapters.
I will say that like just going back to like what I thought at the time as well, like when I was in your shoes reading those first few chapters. Bear in mind, I think I got into the series after J Stars came out as well. So J Stars Victory
Yeah.
Versus, because they had a whole bunch of different characters in there. Like they had like a series I never even read before. So it was at that point it was Nisekoi, Haikyuu, Kuroko no Basket. There was a bunch of these things which I'd never read before. And I
Mhm.
think Nisekoi was the first one I picked up out of them because I was like, oh, this series been around for a while. I'll give it a shot. And then, like, so anyway, getting back to my point. um, when I first started reading, I think I always felt like Shitoge was the promise girl with it. I always thought this is the person that Raku's gonna end up with
Mhm.
because again, like the person they put in J Stars, it's the character they've chosen from that series to be in the game. It's not like they've chosen anyone else. So I was like, oh, this is the main character. Of course she's gonna be the one there. But like along the way, as the series went on, I'm like, I have no freaking clue. I always felt like I wanted Chitoge to be the promised
Yeah.
girl kind of thing, but I was like, I have no clue if she is or not, or if she isn't. Like,
It's
I
interesting hearing that because I don't want Shitogi to be
you
the
know,
promise girl. I actually okay, again, I only know two of them so far, but I actually would have preferred it if it's Onodera.
okay, yeah.
I
Interesting.
don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know why.
Again, it's every fan is gonna have a different say on what they want. Like,
I still want it
like
to be Claude though, but you know.
Oh, Claude-chan. Nice kid.
Oh crap! What's that? There was that other kid that came in. Like Claude trained him himself. That kid just
Oh, Sugumi.
yeah, he's just turned up as well.
Oh, he's just turned up.
Well,
Okay.
not just. I think that was like the chapter before
Okay.
or 2 chapters before. But
So
like
you
he's
haven't
here
seen
now.
much. You haven't seen much of Sugumi at all, really. Then
Not really. I've seen him like
cool, cool,
around at
cool,
the
cool, cool.
school and they're like on that roof scene. You know where
Yeah.
he's
Okay.
like, "So do you love Ojo Summer?" And
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, "Yeah, of course. I'm madly in love. Would you
Yeah.
die for her? Yeah."
Fair, fair, fair. Yeah, fair play.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
I do love that they call her, even though she's half American, they spent most of her life in America. Love that all of them call her Ojo Summer.
Even like with Shitoge, it's like kind of like okay, it's excusable. She's half Japanese.
Yeah.
Like she comes over mum, but like the rest of them have no freaking excuse whatsoever.
Yeah. But they still just call,
Oh,
and then like you'd think Raku would have some sort of like grandiose name as well, right? Some
yeah.
title, and they're like, "Oh, Buckchan, Buckchan, yeah, yeah. Oh, I love you, Buckchan, Buckchan, you're the best. You're the boss's kid, but Buckchan, you the best." And oh, on the other side there, you'd think they'd be like, "Oh yeah, you know, I don't know, Chi-chan or some shit." They're like, no, Ojo-sama, Ojo-sama, Otsukare-sama desu. Like, you know what I mean? They're out here
Yeah.
using honorifics like proper like Japanese, and the others are like, "Yeah, Bokchan, yeah, you're wicked right. You're the best. Thanks for breakfast. I love you. You're
I
my
mean, yeah,
friend."
it's accurate.
They literally are like,
Nathan's not doing it disservice. It's true.
it's literally accurate. Oh, Bokchan, thanks for breakfast. I love you. You're the best, mate. You're the best. I can't wait for you to be the boss.
See, there's no dub to Nisekoi anime either, so I mean, for all we know, they could actually sound like
Fucking
that.
Cultured Boys dub.
I mean, it's not been dubbed yet, so the cultured voice
Oh
abridged
god.
Nisekoi is it'd be an
Nisekoi,
experience.
no, because we would get destroyed. You can't
It's
do any of that
it's
shit
also
anymore.
it's also a series which has a majority female characters in it as well, and like I don't think we're gonna be doing any of those characters.
I mean, it's a
Like,
bridging, so it would be funny, like just like one of us as Onidera, one of us as Chitoge, and it's still just our voices. Like we haven't pitched it or anything. Just Onidera, like, "Oh, Raku, you're a very nice man. You're these are your best qualities."
Oh, you stupid brain sprout! What you doing?
Or bean sprout, fuck you.
I hate that I've given Kurosaki, arguably one of my favorite characters in the series, just the fucking worst voice as well. Like called by Dick Van Dyke, Jesus. Oh no.
Uh,
Right. I think on that note, we need to wrap this up. I can't deal with this. Is there anything you want to say, Nathan, before we wrap this up?
I do recommend this, and I will try to read some more.
Mhm.
I don't know that I'm fully out of burnout, but this was a
Mhm.
good step forward, and I do actually, again, I did really enjoy it, and I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to developing my Claude theory some more.
Aside from the Claude Theory, I'm actually quite glad that Nathan's enjoyed that because again, didn't know how you were going to react to that. So that's a whole thing. But hey, he read 15 chapters. That's more than I expected from Nathan. So thank you. And honestly, guys, like from me as a long time Nisekoi fan, I'd highly recommend this series. If you love your cliches, you like your rom coms, give it a shot. So let us know what you think. But thank you for listening, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button for future Cultured Boys videos. Click the links in our bio. We have our X and all of our podcast platforms down there as well. And we'll catch you next time for another Cultured Boys episode. Bye bye.
Claude is best girl. Bye.